Hi, my name's Ben. Hope you can hear me okay. A little bit of background noise. Just a quick intro. I was born in Brussels, Belgium, to a Singaporean Indian mother and a British father, and stayed there until the age of 4 when the family moved over to Singapore. My first education was in French, even though I guess we are an English-speaking household. And I continued my French education at a French international school here, Lycée Français, and continued that until the age of about 10 when I moved to an English curriculum at the United World College of Southeast Asia. So did at what was the time the full course, so GCSE, IB, 7 years, and before graduating and going off to Los Angeles, the University of Southern California. Studied international relations and French at uni, and graduated 4 years later to move to New York. Really wanted to move to New York. Took the first and pretty much only opportunity I had, which was an internship at Red Brick Properties, a boutique real estate development and investment company. So very hands-on experience. Stayed in New York for 4 to 5 years, always with the same company, and very much got exposed, very much so, to I guess, the real estate industry. Um, Needed a change. Moved to Spain. Moved to Ibiza for about 9 months with a very close friend, and was there, and then went back, and then came home. Came home to Singapore, and have now been back 7 years, close to 7 years. So those are kind of my movements. When I moved back, set up I set up my first company, which we still own and operate, which is the Bamboo Group. The Bamboo Group is a boutique real estate investment company focusing very much on neighborhood shop houses in Singapore. And then about 2 years ago, I set up another business, the Working Capital, which is more of a concept and a operational brand. So I guess in the context of the Working Capital, this this topic resonates quite a bit with me. The so the topic being, what are the defining characteristics of a successful global leader, and how can organizations better integrate and cultivate global citizens in order to succeed? So I guess the reason this resonates with me is because I decided to start the Working Capital because to I wanted to run a business that was aligned with my values, with what I wanted to achieve, and was more than just kind of. Still had a real estate backbone because that's what I understand, but also kind of encompassed a whole kind of array of other moving pieces, right? And the Working Capital it's a hybrid model. We take full building identities, and we have F&B, we have events, we have co-working, so options for individuals, all the way through to options for very large companies. And what I wanted to do was create a brand that I could hopefully export beyond Singapore, into multiple locations, both here and overseas, with a focus on the region. And yeah, I guess, you know, the being lucky enough to have the upbringing that we did, being exposed to all sorts of different cultures, being exposed to all sorts of different types of people, different backgrounds, living in different places. Um, you kind of, I don't think it's enough to do a business, purely for profit. And while that is important, at least from a business mindset, I think there are a lot of other kind of aspects of your life that you hope to feed, through your business, right? And that should, could hopefully continue to inspire you, And I think the at least for us, in setting up this business, we've really done that at a very at the that has to be instilled in a business at its very core, right? In terms of how you're structuring it. Like for us, I guess that meant we have an employee stock option program whereby everybody in the business basically is an owner in the business, regardless of their position. So from management all the way through to your facilities, your cleaning staff, they become a part of the vision, right? And the vision is to be a global brand that really embraces diversity, both in terms of the stage at which these different businesses are at, so that being able to cater for the full spectrum, from the startup all the way through to the MNC, and also the being able to cater to a diverse the to many different types of businesses, right? That diversity for us is very interesting. That interplay between different stakeholders, and just kind of putting them all in the same environment and seeing what happens, right? And trying to facilitate it, but also letting that happen on its own, right? So that's what this is about. And I guess there are lifestyle elements, there are other kind of components that we integrate, but really the goal was to democratize the work experience. I think, and put everybody on a kind of even platform, right? Or yeah, and so that's I guess that's really what we're trying to achieve with this business over here. And it's you have to kind of live it and breathe it every day. And it has to become part of your mission, right? To kind of push push the values that you believe in, right? And that are important to you. So I think it, for I guess I don't know about all this terminology, and I wouldn't know how to necessarily define a global citizen, or still don't know what a third culture kid is. But I guess you are or you're not, right? And if you are, it's not enough to just surround yourself with other like-minded people from the same socio-economic background as you, and just pat yourselves on the back and say, good on you. You're a global citizen. You're open. You're forward thinking. All of that good stuff, right? I think there's a responsibility to kind of push that agenda and onto other stakeholders, right? Whether that's government, whether that's small businesses, but wherever you can, right? That kind of value system needs to be inbuilt how you're putting out your product. And we really try and do that. And I think it's it's easier said than done. I think growing up the way I went to the same school, United World College, as Solonia and Grace, the founders of the Change School, and I think many UWC kids will attest to the fact that that was a super formative experience, and to the extent that it kind of gives you, I guess, rose-colored, you know, it just paints a rosy picture of how the world is supposed to be. And there are all these great initiatives that really make you kind of hyper aware of how to be a responsible global citizen, right? And to the extent that when I did move to LA, it was very it was a culture shock, right? I mean, yeah, there were people from different backgrounds, but the culture as a whole was very homogenous, right? Very kind of very what do you call it? Very big onto the whole Greek lifestyle and fraternities and this and that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there was no celebration of individuality, which I think is also I guess part of being a global citizen, right? Celebrating differences, right? And understanding that that is what kind of connects all of us in a certain way. So yeah, and that continued to happen when I moved back to Singapore after New York. And New York was wonderful because over there, people don't care where you're from. You just get on with it, right? And I felt very at ease there compared to Los Angeles. When I moved back to Singapore, my experience of Singapore, it was different, and you didn't. It wasn't the same as when we were kids growing up in an international school where you thought the whole world was like everyone that you hung out with, right? When you set up a business here, you have to adapt, you have to contextualize it locally, and sometimes that means operating within certain kind of parameters, right? So how do you you have to that you have to adhere to certain business fundamentals in the local environment to make it work. But how do you push it so you can kind of broaden that box per se, right? And that's really what led us to do this business, right? And we didn't want to operate. If we had stuck with just doing the Bamboo Group, we would have been operating in a niche, shop houses in neighborhoods in Singapore. We would have never been able to kind of go outside with this, and kind of hopefully connect the dots, right? So we've set up our flagship for the working capital, and the goal is to have a network of sites in the region, and hopefully, provide a bit of connectivity between the communities in those various sites, right? And that's the goal. I mean, from a personal interest standpoint, it allows us to broaden our mindset as to what it's like to truly operate an MNC, and I think that's very exciting for us. It's going to be a hell of a challenge, but it'll be extremely interesting. It is already very interesting, and it's what gets us excited about this business, and just being able to kind of do something that is a reflection of the values that are important to you and your co-founders, right? In this case, my sister. So that's I think in terms of in terms of this topic, that's it's I can't stress enough that it's that any entrepreneur who's setting up should really look at this, at instilling those at every level possible, right? Even when you're, because otherwise it takes a tangent, right? And everyone has to be concerned with the bottom line. But if you structure things right, if you instill it in your agreements from day one, there's less likelihood that you'll deviate from that, and the work will be more rewarding, because that even though there is that daily grind to succeed, you are pushing something that you believe in, right? And that's, I think, that goes through to the partnerships that we take on board, and what the interaction is between, what the expectations are in terms of those partnerships, sharing of information, openness, and just a general, I guess, respect for one another and what people are doing. It's and I think in this day and age, it's it's important. People are not necessarily as open-minded as I think people who consider themselves global citizens would like to think, and it takes time. It takes time to get people to think a different way.